Good afternoon, Kala ma'am,
Good afternoon.
and good afternoon to every one of you. Today's topic is about learning styles. In fact, the notion is that all of us have a learning style of our own. If educators can understand learners' needs, they'll be able to support the learner in his or her learning very well. But how easy it is to know a learner's learning style. There's been a lot of literature, there's been a lot of research, there's been a lot of debate happening around this area. There are lots of educational experts who have propounded theories on the various different styles of learning. I still remember my history teacher way back, I think 34 years back, talking to me about the Great Pyramids of Giza. When I say talking to me, he was actually talking to the entire class, but I felt as if he is actually talking to me. He was an amazing teacher. From that particular class of history, which all of us know, that we have to visualize what the teacher is talking about, get ourselves transported to that era and understand what could have been the situation, the context at that point of time, and then understand that particular topic or historical input. In such times, you really need to be what we call as an auditory learner, because we are just listening to someone talking to us and imagining. Those were the days when we did not have digital multimedia tools. We did not have videos. We didn't even have, for example, color TV at the time. And I should say that I had a very different style of learning. It was also those time periods when we used to listen to cricket commentary across the world happening, radio commentary. So you are actually transported to that pitch or to that stadium by the expertise and the amazing way the commentators used to tell us what's happening there. Miles across or tens of thousands of miles across, we imagine this is what is happening. Now I'm just touching a very small part of the learning style, one of those types of learners. But subsequently, there's been lots and lots of theories on what kinds of learning styles are there and how it is evolving. Now, why is this topic very important in these days? Most of the learners learn from textbooks or used to learn from textbooks, used to learn from listening to stories or listening to what the teachers teach. But in the very recent past, especially in the last 6 months, maybe broadly in the last 4 to 5 years, but in the last 6 months, things have changed dramatically. In fact, almost every one of us are now having access to multimedia-led, digital-led, interactive learning or interactive content. Now, what this means is that almost every individual, take for example in a school today, when a teacher is teaching online, every individual is typically given a large dosage of digital content. So does that have an impact on the learning style? That's what we are going to learn from a very eminent expert who's been in this industry for many, many years. 34 years is what her overall experience just in this industry teaching is. She's a senior academic advisor, come educational consultant for a large number of schools. She's visited many organizations across the countries, right from Tanzania, Malaysia, Lagos, and Malta. She has done hands-on training one-on-one with more than 30,000 people. And she was one of the pioneers of Parvarish. In fact, way back 10, 20, 30 years back, the concept of effective parenting, especially from young what would I say, young couples having one or two kids and who are also working, the challenges faced was very early, and it was a concept at a very nascent stage. And Kala Mohan ma'am was the pioneer of how do we really inculcate this particular knowledge around a large number of parents. In fact, she's reached today more than 3 lakh parents in the last couple of decades. Her passion is to bring and spread happiness amidst the children of this planet Earth. She has 2 NGOs, Anahita and Nidan, and works with communities in the field of education. She has been a very resourceful leader for many people in and around Bhopal, at least in the last few years. Nidan Inclusive Schools in Bhopal and Indore has children with special needs. In fact, this is another topic for another day. We will have Kala Mohan ma'am join us. That's another very important topic. But then she is also into helping schools with counseling. She is a life member of NSS, and she is decorated with large number of awards. To name a few, she was awarded the Bharat Shiksha Ratna. She was awarded the Guru Dronacharya Samman. She was awarded the Sandipani Gurujan Vashishta Samman. And she was also the best principal, being awarded the Avantika Samman. There's a very large list, but I would like to welcome Kala Mohan ma'am. Good afternoon to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Maha.
The topic for the day today is on how learning styles have an impact on the students' learning, and how the learning styles are changing and how it is more relevant in the current day. So I was just telling you about how in the very recent past digital or the deluge of digital has really impacted learning and learners. So I just want you to give your initial thoughts and then I will take the session forward. To you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Baha, for that lovely introduction of mine, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me here to interact with you all. And very nicely picked up topic about the learning styles and the impact of these styles on the learning outcome of individuals. We should not forget one thing, that this world is actually of a community of learners, whether they go to school or not go to school. Wherever they are, we are learning. We all human beings are learning, and learning is something which is a physiological, psychological process which takes place. If in one sentence we say, people talk about learning is permanent. If learning has been taken place, then it's permanent in nature. It is visible in the change of behavior of any individual. As far as the learning styles are concerned, still researches are going on and quite debatable also. When you just turn the pages of the literature and review the literature, research available as far as this learning styles are concerned, people have different opinions and different schools of thought. Personally, I believe that yes, there are certain subjects, interests, and factors which are also equally responsible for receiving the information and perceiving it, and then the sensory integration of all those information which we receive and process and then learn, and then transfer it to the permanent memory to be there to recall it on time. And we use all our senses, and all these senses are very much responsible to receive the information. Maybe that might be a reason that we call it as like visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners to start with, and later on added with the read and write learners too. So I feel that as far as now, when the question comes about digital world and the students are being in one fine morning in India, it's being asked for them to enter into the world of digital space wherein your teacher will come and interact with you. Definitely, that was very challenging for the teacher also to make the content interesting for them, because when we talk about digital, the first medium appears is a screen. So we may say that the visual learners might be very happy. Wow, what not. So, but maybe the auditory might be thinking that maybe I'm not very comfortable with it. So here comes the intelligence of a pedagogical teacher, that how is she going to manage and entire helm of affair for another 40 to 45 minutes, keeping in mind the diversified learners sitting in the class, and to make it very interesting one. So I think that is very, very important for. And one more thing I just want to add here is, what about the teacher's own learning style? So many a times, Mr. Maha, it happens that if I am having a very dominant style and I feel that all these subjects are being learned by me by this medium, so I'll think that the 40 or 45 odd number of children sitting in my class will also learn in the same manner. And that there comes the actual battle. It's not like that. So teacher has to equip herself to communicate or to transfer or transform the entire class to keep that individual differences in mind.
You brought a very important point. Teacher has to keep in mind the individual differences. In a class of say 30, 40 students, students are at different levels of learning. Students have different styles of learning, right? You talked about this visual and auditory and stuff. Now, any teacher, it's not practically possible to guide every individual student according to their learning styles. Even what she might have the set of resources to teach might be limited. Now, forget teachers even having a knowledge on the various styles of learning of the student. Today, I don't think in any school they do a kind of a study of all the children in their class, and then that information is recorded, and then accordingly the student groups are formed. Now, in such scenarios, when you have 30, 40, 50 students in a class, especially when a teacher's dominant style of learning is what would come when she now starts teaching. Now, what do you think are the challenges? How do you manage such a situation? It's not easy for a teacher, but it is something which needs to be managed. So what are some thoughts you have?
Mr. Maha, what I feel when when we were entering into the world of being an educator and to interact with so many divine creations inside the class, and every creature is unique in his or her own way, it will remain challenging. No teacher can claim herself that today whatever I did, I have done it 100% absolute. It's a journey. And today, as on date, when the information is available to the learner, just a fingertip away from him or her. So teacher's role is, of course, very challenging. She is not there as during the traditional time, a sage on stage where everybody is only listening to her and nodding the head. When we were in the school, there was only one medium very popular, and that was the auditory. And we were not even raising our eyebrows, and we were just listening, and we all have passed through our examination and scored well and doing well in our lives. So that during those time also the learning took place. We like I can give my own example. Like I have never found my teacher is coming and using any AV aid at all. She was just having a very favorite dialogue, entering into the class and telling, "Good morning, children. Open your textbook, page number 6, para number 3, XYZ. You start. I am here to explain it." So that was a very, except like mathematics, maybe some teacher might have asked us to come and solve it on blackboard during those days. Now it is green board. So maybe a few people like me, today when I look at my own self, so I feel that I have been thrown out of my class every time because I was very kinesthetic. and I keep on asking either the question or disturbing the entire class. It was a very favorite dialogue of my teacher, Kala, you stand up and you get out of the class, so that she can manage other class very well. So today maybe this may be possible that teachers are having their own ways of dealing with these kind of children, because it happens. There are certain, see, all my 5 senses are not equally developed. There are certain senses which are highly developed, and from where I receive more information and I feel myself more comfortable with it to process it properly. So teachers, hit and trial, it's always there. If teacher feels that I need a good result of my class, then she will come up with her own ways of doing either peer learning, peer tutoring, forming the groups, or providing the various the various kinds of pedagogies, like few things maybe auditory, showing them certain things to the visual, or then asking them, involving them in some activities, so, and asking them to read and write and to involve. That all depends. Although you are right that 45 minutes class, but it is possible for a teacher if she understands and she believes. Belief is very important, that I believe that individual learners are there and everybody's learning style is different. That is why they are not able to learn when I was only auditory in my nature. But if I keep changing my pedagogies, I may reach to 70 to 80% of these children. And that is why today, as on date, there are a lot of teacher training programs and the workshops like this or interactions with this that teaches to listen to all these kinds of programs and can go back and sit with her own content and can design a proper flow of events inside the class to do justice with the deliverables. So, of course, it is challenging, but I will not say that it's not possible. It is possible with the belief and understanding and sensitivity of a teacher that I should do justice with my learners. That matters.
So, doing justice with those learners, one of the things which you referred a few minutes back is about the teacher's knowledge of each of these, but also his or her ability to appreciate there are different styles. Now, learning, we are talking so much about learning styles, especially given the very recent experiences, everyone having or being forced into a digital-led learning, right? There's been a lot of discussions and debates over how much of digital should a student have, at what age it is important, and does it really impact a student's learning method at all. In fact, getting addicted to devices, getting addicted to technology-led, there's been a lot of debate by experts, right? In such a scenario, is it important for a teacher to sit with the parent and really have a discussion on what the dominant style of learning for this child is, and how he or she, along with the parent, can really help the child succeed in his or her learning? Now, how would you suggest should the teacher go about doing it? Because that's many times it's the parent, or at least that's been the discussion, who introduces mobiles and tablets and screens to the child, and then child starts getting distracted.
Correct. Now, very rightly said or asked the question that the role of parents in the entire helm of affair of the teaching learning process. See, what I personally feel today, when everything is at home, it means the parents have also started realizing the role of a teacher, because today the parent is also a teacher. And during the lockdown time, when they were also at home and having no other work as such, few days they were with the children, and we come across too many issues about the like teacher, because when parents look into the thing, their perception is entirely different. Earlier it was through almanac or through diaries or something to communicate. Now today, like during the, especially the lockdown time, the parents started interaction with the teacher. There are both the ways there. Teacher to realize the role of parent, I am in favor of it. because the child stays with the teacher for few hours, but child stays most of the time with the parent or at home in a environment. So if we have a partnership with parents, first partnership has to take place inside the class with students. That is the first partnership, because now teacher alone cannot do justice. She has to come with a collaborative approach. She has to bring even parent into fore. That you are also observational based. She can take the input from the parents. And I have realized, sir, that when I am going to ask him to write few sentences or to ask him to use the highlighter and to just color it with, if a child is coloring those keywords or making a graphic organizer, I found him that he is quite comfortable with this and he was very ready. So have you also observed these things, that is he talking to in the same manner, that whatever he is receiving through his eyes are more into narratives when he is coming back to you and asking you the question or talking to you? It happens as when I was the principal, and I used to tell the parents that when the children, especially all these learning styles or multiple intelligences or the receiving or the sensorial part of the child is being developed in the initial years of the formative development of the children. So we usually ask the parents, it's very easy for you to identify the dominance. How is it possible? So I said, no, when you talk to the child, for example, if I am asking my child coming back from the school, how was your day? How did you spend the day? So there is always a probability that when you listen to those statements, so the visual child will keep on telling you that, Papa, do you know what I have found, that today I just saw that 2 birds were flying in the air, and oh, what a nice wing. And I saw my teacher was wearing a beautiful sari, and I also saw. So in his 10 statements, maybe 6 to 7 statements were visually dominating. That way a parent can also observe. And where it is possible, there is a probability, there is a possibility, although there is no research as such to taken place, but I personally felt that it is easy for us to identify. And inside the class also, the child who is keep on asking you the question or moving inside the class and disturbing the class, it means that he is not receiving you auditory and visual. Now the child is tactile learning, he want to move or shake his body or to do certain activities. So there are n number of ways. Even this parent can also tell you that he doesn't sit in a place. He keeps on doing certain things and disturbing entire home and disturbing. It means the child is tactile, moving, mobile person. So the child needs certain hands-on experiences. So there are this way a teacher can take a parent into confidence, and then see, there are 2-3 ways to identify, 2, 3 or 4, 5 ways. There are certain inventories, certain checklist is also available. When I was the principal, like the best practice you can say, or a kind of practice which we did it, that there is a very nice downloadable form is available, and we just administer, and that's all observational based. So you can share that form with the parent. You can also have your assessment. Other subject teachers can also have their assessment, and a combined effort can place the child in one or other dominant style of learning, and then we can understand that, okay, this particular thing is to be served to him in this manner, which is quite possible.
You also brought a very important point. You referred to the multiple intelligences sometime.
Yeah.
I remember reading about your work, and the time you have spent on Steve Rudolph's multiple natures. Right?
Yes.
So you have done a lot of work on that.
Yes.
So I just want to take this one small example, which I think the audience would love to hear. There was this ballerina by name Gillian Lynn. This was in the 1930s. The point which you just mentioned about a tactile learner who learns by doing things or moving around and etc. It so happened that she couldn't sit quiet at one place, and it was a period when her mom had to take her from school to school to school, because none of the schools would keep her, because they felt that she is disturbing the class too much. And then it so happened that the mom was frustrated, and then she took Gillian to a psychologist come doctor, and she's now sitting in front of the doctor, and then she has her young Gillian sitting next to her, and then she starts pouring her heart out, saying how challenging it has been to get Gillian sit in a class, and why schools are not taking in her, and they have been removing her from every school. The young kid does not know what's happening. So while she is pouring out, this doctor, he's keenly observing this young girl. He sees that she's moving continuously. She's more or less whatever Gillian's mom is telling, she understood, meaning he understood. So after he listened to the entire thing, so she asks Gillian's mom, so doctor, tell me, what should I do? She seems to have a challenge in learning, right? So what he does is very interesting and changed this young girl's course of life. He just switched on music. He told the mom, you come with me, and then they just moved to the next room. And then while they were just watching through the window, this girl suddenly transformed. This girl she was in a planet of her own. She just listened to the music, and she was doing those amazing steps, completely in sync with what the music is. So the doctors turned to Gillian's mom and then said, she does not have any challenge. There is no issue with her learning style. She just loves to dance. She's in the wrong place. Now that the mother took the advice, she went and admitted this girl into a dance school. From there on, Gillian went on to become one of the best known ballerinas in UK, around the world. And she became the face of many large series in London and Broadway. And she was the face in the Cats. She was the face in the Phantom of the Opera. Now that is something which she attributes to that particular doctor. She did not know all of this happening. Now why I took this long introduction to that particular anecdote is multiple intelligences, and very recently the multiple natures, what Steve Rudolph talked about, is something which more and more people and parents and educators are looking into. So what are your thoughts on this? So I just wanted to give this as an example. So over to you, ma'am.
Correct. See, multiple intelligences, really, it is a revolutionary, you can say, kind of research which took place in this century. Because earlier, still it is there in few minds that the marks are the parameter of success of any individual. If a child is not academically excelling through examination, the child is of no career or no future or no life at all. But this multiple intelligences is something which I personally feel that wherein you can see the children, the linguistic smart or the language smart children, the mathematical smart children, that is the logic smart, then spatial, visual spatial. Now, when we talk about multiple intelligences, when you listen to me, it is also throwing some light towards the learning style also. For example, the auditory learner is more into musical and the linguistic part. The visual learner is to spatial, space-related issues, and the verbal learners are there, who are the auditory smart children, the logical and mathematical learners, the physical or kinesthetic learners, or the social interpersonal learners, and the solitary and intrapersonal learners. Then nature smart children are there, who are naturalistic intelligence. So when we look at everything is observational based. And why observational based? Because then only you come to, for example, the teacher is inside the class at throwing some questions and the answers. So based on those answers, the teacher can speak and can relate it with the various kinds of intelligences the child is already possessing. So as initially I said that child is divine in nature and child is God's own creation and meant for something in life. If something is missing, some other thing is there. And the permutation combination of these strength areas will lead a successful career and a life for that child. And latest, as Stephen Rudolph has come up with relating it to the multiple intelligences. For example, what he has said that suppose a child is having the healing nature. Already the child is healing. Child takes care of the people very nicely. Child is concerned about the human beings and plants and other kingdom and the creations. So child is basically having that healing nature in him. If the same child with the permutation combination of those intelligences, if go and join some career as doctors, psychologists, counselors, healers, the child will be more successful because those inherent talent and intelligences clubbed with the nature of the child will provide the child a better career with satisfaction and happiness, which today it's missing. Many of the people, we can just look around, they might have reached to a good position, maybe the CEOs of the great company, but then when you ask them, they might be telling you that although my bank balance is poor, but I still look for that happiness and that contentment or the satisfaction because this was not what I actually want to be. So that is where this multiple intelligences, multiple nature also plays very important role in the life of a child, and it must be known to all the educators. They all have to abreast themselves with all these latest researches and the findings.
While the teacher will also need to know what's happening around and what kinds of newer theories are being brought in, it's also important for them to probably know that learning styles keep changing over the time.
Yes.
As a child grows, as a child consumes more information from the surroundings, he or she starts learning differently, right? So their dominant style also might change with age. So what are your suggestions on what should a educator or a parent do when this style changes?
I think we should not confine ourselves to only the learning style. That is one criteria, one way of reaching to the child. Because we all know that it's a growing and a developing. We all are developing creatures. None of us are completely developed. So when throughout the developmental stages of the children, they keep changing their learning styles. And that is why if you really want to have the growth mindset of an individual child, we should not confine them to a very rigid style of learning or to tell him, to brand him, to label him that this is the only way that you can learn. No. For us and for the child, it can be one criteria to be looked for the better learning environment to be created inside the class, but this is not the only way. So that should be kept in the mind by the teacher also, that the child keeps changing. So we should free the child. That is why now we have also started giving more importance to the constructivism and to connectivism, self-learning, the learning to learn. So where no barriers, no barricades, no limitations, rather the child is being given the freedom to learn, to choose, to prosper, to grow, to develop. And that should be the mindset of the teacher also and the parent also, that don't ask your child to swim in the closed tank. Rather give him the complete freedom to learn, freedom to choose. Freedom is very important, and that freedom can only come when we all will think together about the child and his development.
I think you made again another very important point of giving the freedom for the child to grow on their own, to mature on whatever style they have. But how do I as a teacher or a parent know what is the nature of this child. Broadly, I think the parent will know that this child is almost always helping everyone else, right? So that's one style of one of the multiple natures, right? Or this child is always curious, asks a lot of questions.
Of course.
So how would are there any tools for say a teacher, because a teacher might not have the opportunity to interact with every individual kid through that 1 year period, and are there some tools available which you can suggest?
Yeah, it is like just Google it out, the MIMN. You will get a lot of tools, lot of observational based and checklists are there. It's very simple to find it out. You can easily note it down, find it out, and can administer those tools also, because they all are standardized and validated ones and available. And as I said that today only, I can just give you the very live example of a 2-year-old child, a 3-year-old child. When the parents, they come and interact, I always tell them, you are not supposed to wear any specs first. You remove all specs. Don't become judgmental. Don't have a biased approach towards the child. Look the child afresh, because the child is coming to you and the child is developing. It's not that we are the only source of information, or we are the only people from where the child is getting the information and processing it. Today, the entire world is on his palm top, and he is looking to various things and processing it according to his intellectual capacities, capabilities. So we need to give this kind of freedom to child also, and the parents. The issue is with the certain system is having lot of issues, not the child. I always tell, I'm an advocate of child, and I always feel that a newly born baby came to this earth. What was the nature or the creation which has been given to us, and what we made him today is entirely different. So if you are having this mindset of yours of nurturing the child in this manner, and that is very important, and maybe the new education policy or progressive leaders and principals and the parents, they will be with the children to allow them to think, allow them to speak, allow them to express. And this allowing them to speak, express is what is more important than I need, because I'm into counseling. I have met so many students and children. They are coming and telling, my father doesn't want, my mother doesn't want, my brother is saying like this. Where is the child? Child is standing in the corner of the room and just watching everybody. Okay, fine, you take a call. But now slowly the time is changing, and the parents have also started observing the various nature of the child. The child is providing nature, child is adventurous in nature, child is having all kinds of the kind of you can say the observation, which attending the hospitality, for example, attending the guests properly. So if parents can observe and can allow the child for that expression, instead of increasing the screen time, let the child interact, and then only they will be able to observe it. If child is been interacting with the society and community and with the family members, then there is enough time for us to observe and can note it down various dominating nature of that particular child.
I think you summed it up by saying it is very important to nurture, right? Nurturing is core. And as a pioneer of Parvarish many years back, I think nurturing is something close to your heart. Just try to guide as much as possible, but don't force them into too much of screen time, force them into too much of digital, force them into too much of any of these what do I call changed styles as what we think are the important things the child should pick. Leave it for the child, right? So thank you. It was a very insightful session. I hope all our audience got some tips, some inputs, and some it opened up some thoughts for them to go back and then think about how they will be able to nurture in their school, in their classroom, in their children. So thank you, ma'am, again, and thank you everyone, and see you all soon.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good day.